What's up, Colorado Realtors? I'm Scott Peterson. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Legal Bites. It is Thursday, the 3rd of December. Hope everybody had a fantastic holiday week or Thanksgiving week, and hope everybody's having a good holiday season so far. We are certainly in the thick of it here. I wanted to come at you today because every licensee in the state, every one of you guys, every Colorado Realtor, and every one of your licensed colleagues in the state of Colorado should have received within the last couple of hours an email from the Division of Real Estate related to doing business in the level red. It's an FAQ essentially on level red business in the state. If you're in a county right now where you're in the level red, then this would apply to you at the state level. And what the division, I think, has done, the Division of Real Estate and DORA have collaborated, and kudos to them, by the way, for providing some specific guidance, because the real estate business, as you guys know, there's not just like black and white lines. There's field services, there's office brokerage, there's engaging with customers and clients in the field, there's other industry partners and professionals that are working in the business. So they delivered this FAQ, and this is specifically just for red level or level red brokerage services. I think what we're going to see is a similar FAQ for each of the levels in our COVID dial. And the link to that COVID dial is going to be somewhere. If you're watching it on YouTube, it'll be down below. If it's on Facebook, I think it's up above. But a link to that COVID dial at the state. And as we know at this point, there's the green, blue, yellow, orange, red, and now purple is the next level that thankfully nobody's at this point. And so for each one of those COVID dial colors, there will be a separate FAQ for what can be done in a real estate transaction based on the public health orders. So I want to hit on the high points for level red. Encourage you guys to download that. That again is going to be linked as well, either up or below, depending on where you're watching this video. But this is a great little document that gives very specific guidance from the Division of Real Estate. So that's fantastic. And so download it. I'm not going to hit on all of it, but I want to hit on a couple of the high points. First thing it mentions is your counties and certain municipalities may put on at the county level or at the city, town level, whatever it is, they may put on additional limitations. And so as a matter of licensing, geographic competency, you need to be aware of what any additional local restrictions might be as it relates to your performing brokerage services. And so there is a cautionary point there. This applies at the state level, and to the extent that your county is following the state guidelines and not doing anything additional to those guidelines, then this would apply to you. But there are certain areas that are doing something more than that. The next thing it goes into, and this is a really important piece in this Q&A, is the definition of what is a quote-unquote real estate transaction. And it's super important because back, as you guys some probably remember from March, April, and May, when we were in the early phases of this, what a real estate transaction was actually ended up being very truncated. They were looking at essentially a real estate transaction being those activities that take place from the contract through the closing. And so that really shorted out the ability to do showings. It kept you from doing listing appointments potentially, and all of those things that really need to take place in order to get to a point where you can actually have a contract that you can move forward in. So they now define a real estate transaction. It begins as soon as the broker is engaged to perform real estate brokerage services, which makes sense. That's when your licensing body has jurisdiction over you. This includes listing appointments, sign calls, and requests for showings. So the good news is the definition, the spectrum of a real estate transaction has gotten broader. It's now more accurately reflected in terms of what an actual real estate transaction is. And that's important because a real estate transaction under the public health orders is considered a critical business. And so in order to qualify to be doing business under the public health order in any of the levels, you got to be a critical business. So now the stuff that you're doing as a broker, from the listing appointments through the end of a transaction, is all part of the critical business, which gives you the ability to do those activities during level red and all of the other levels at this point, at least, that we've reached. Level purple, stay tuned. So that's real good news, to be honest, now that we have a proper, what I believe, a very proper definition of real estate transactions. And then it gets into some additional details. And again, this is like 6 or 7 pages long. I'm just going to break down a couple of the larger ones. Are open houses permissible to be performed by a real estate licensee under level red? The answer is yes, but there are restrictions. Only one group of buyers from the same household, and only those individuals who will be the parties to a contracting agreement may attend an open house. The broker holding the open house is responsible for tracing who has entered the property during the open house and for asking the parties if they've shown COVID symptoms and all of that good stuff. So yes, you could still do open houses, but you can only have one group of buyers from the same household. So to the extent that you're sitting in an open house and you've got a couple of 2 groups of friends that have just been at a Sunday brunch having a good time, and they decide they're going to go out and look at walk through an open house. You can't just let everybody into the open house at once. You've got to make sure you're controlling it. It's one group of or household at a time, and it says only parties to the contracting agreement or potential parties to the contracting agreement. So something else to think about there. Brokerage offices, it talks about brokerage offices. It's 10% occupancy limit in a brokerage office. So let's say you've got a brokerage office and your total sort of fire code occupancy limit is 50 people. Well, you could have 5 individuals in that office at any given time. And so that is something that they point out and clarify. Speaks a little bit to showings then. Obviously, another really important factor. Are showings allowed? Yes, showings are allowed, but again, with limitations. Showings fall into that field services category. And so you've got to make sure that you're limiting those field services in connection with both this and the public health order. And what they say is to limit those in-person activities to only those individuals, once again, who are parties to any contracting instrument and or their real estate brokerage representative. And then it puts a number on, in this case, there should be no more than 4 individuals, including the real estate broker, in a property for a showing at any one time. And so, again, real important. And in that case, that's a situation where if you've got, mom and dad, or you got grandparents, and you got the parties to the contracting instrument, you got grandparents, aunts, uncles, you got a whole bunch of people, and they all pile into, a house that's listed on the market, and 10 people and the broker go piling into the house. That's a great way to get the attention of the neighbors who might end up, calling and complaining. All of the other limitations and requirements that we've had laid on us for the last several months, including, gloves and masks, disinfecting between showings, all of those requirements are still in place. But hey, the good news is that under level red, which is, our second to final most restrictive level in terms of the COVID dial, we are still able to do those activities that have largely been going on and have enabled a really incredibly robust and active real estate market throughout the late spring and summer and through the fall, and gotten us to this point. And so I, again, just would caution you guys to make sure you're adhering to these guidance and limitations. Download this entire FAQ, spend some time, looking it over and digesting it based on the county that you're in and the color that you're in. And again, I think in the next couple of days, it's my understanding we're going to see specific FAQs released for each of the 6 levels. And so we'll see what happens on the proposed level purple. Let's all just knock on wood that none of our counties in the state get to that level purple, which is kind of the final level, because I think we could see some more restrictive business implications for brokerage services and functions. And so this stuff, same thing applies to property management in terms of performing brokerage services. And so all of that would apply, whether it's a seller, landlord, or a buyer, tenant, same thing. The only other point I'm going to make here is one of the FAQs that they actually underlined a specific line here, so I want to emphasize it myself. Does the occupant need to leave the property for showings? And so this would be a situation where the seller is in the property, or even a tenant might be in possession or an occupant of the property. It says no, occupants are permitted to remain in the property during all showings, However, the occupant should wear masks and gloves and maintain 6 feet of social distance. And then they underline right here, brokers cannot require occupants to leave the property. Please don't do that. It's emphasized as an underline in this document, and I think it's a super important point, particularly in the case of tenants who are being sort of removed or asked to leave for a few hours while they're doing a showing. That's one way to get a complaint and to get some of the room to move that our business has been given taken away real quickly. And so please be respectful and mindful of the occupants of a property. In most cases, the people that might be giving you the hardest time are tenants, because they're not as incented to provide access for a showing as a seller might be, who's actually trying to sell their own property. So please, brokers, do not force anybody, request anybody, require anybody to leave the premises. May not be the best place for them, but listen, you can't be the one pushing them out the door. So I'm going to leave it there. I will be back at some point, maybe over the next couple of days, depending on what gets released in additional FAQs. I'm not really concerned, obviously, about the lower level colors, the green, yellow, green, blue, yellow, orange. But the red, which is what we got today, and purple, I'll give you some more information, because some of the earlier colors, you guys have already been used to sort of working in those realms and have been doing so, I think, really quite well and successfully over the last several months. So it's more about level red, which came out today, and level purple. We'll see when that comes out and kind of what the contents of that are. But listen, let's just stay at a level purple. That'll be the best way to avoid all of it. So anyhow, if you have questions about specifics in this or anything else, Car Legal Hotline's available from 9 to 12 and 1 to 4 Monday through Friday. Love to hear from you there. And in addition, I'll be back with some more legal bites at some point here when I've got more information to give. Stay safe and well, everybody. Take care.